and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am.
So hello there, beloved Ascension pioneers and you lovers of life out there. So this is my blue full moon update and of course Easter resurrection video message, which of course will have within it, how to say that, a beloved essence. So it will also be a beloved video. Why? I'm going to tell you all about it. So this is a very juicy topic. It's about what is currently unfolding. I'm going to share what's been happening in my reality. I know a lot of you have been experiencing this in your own reality. So when I came to this spot, I have to tell you this, it was kind of hard to find a perfect recording spot. I wanted to do it before we get some rainfall to record outside, and I heard Spirit telling me, well, today's the first day of spring. And I'm like, wasn't that equinox? But energetically, in terms of nature and this awakening, it really felt so, because I tuned into energies and I just feel, you know, today for the first day when I walked outside, I could actually feel the energy of spring, which hasn't been felt before for a while here in our alpine portal. So I've seen the yellow butterflies for the first time today, and I've been so hyper these days, channeling, communicating, creating. It's been intense. It's probably one of the busiest times in my life. So I'm just going to take something from nature to hold on to ground me in this video, because this is a huge time. It's a huge gateway. It's a huge portal. As always, it's not just about resurrection at large. This year we're going deeper into what does it mean to be in the essence and the embodiment of the resurrection of the rose. So this is today's topic. In terms of beloved integration, I will address that as well. But first and foremost, I want to share with you what actually led towards the channeling that came through for this video that I want to share with you as my beautiful group of beings that recently so many amazing souls, angelic souls, are connecting with me. They're writing me all these messages, and the first thing I wish to share today is that what I've been doing in my video channels here on YouTube, and what I've been writing in my blogs, and when I had my Facebook page, it felt like, you know, I am in the center of giving and sharing these messages, but it didn't feel like that being an overall process when we're all included. It somehow didn't reach that point as of yet. So I've shared in my equinox video about the sacred sisterhood of the rose, the initial gateway and the portal of love opening that led to this experience. So yesterday was kind of a pivot point for me. I'm going to tell you how things started to elevate from there on and what I've channeled during that gateway. And it was intense. It was like being in the midst of the vortex, that just, you are in the midst of this. You are the channel. This is just coming through you. And then everything was confirmed. You know, I'm going to go along when I explain this to you, what's happening. And I'm sure a lot of you are within this simultaneous way of integration at this time. So everyone talks about the Christed flame, even the sisterhood of the rose. You know, I've heard people talking about it before, just, you know, articles written. But so far for many of humans, it was on the ideological or philosophical level of what we held as memory, and the memory of when the Christed feminine and masculine were as one. So we've held these as sacred polarities, but not a lot of full integrated union was experienced on our planet, you know, for eons of time. So the seed of this union was planted within the resurrection flame that was awakened within the union of Joshua and Magdalene at that time. And as you know, when different aspects of souls come in, holding always the template of the group consciousness or the oversoul consciousness, they're each being a part of that process, which is actually a multidimensional simultaneous process. It's not a linear process of light. So as they have seeded that you know, resurrection of the true flame of Christ at that time, at the 0 point polarity integration on earth at that time that we know is the zero, you know, when the Christed years started to start from zero again, you know, we started from scratch. Why? This is an important knowledge and understanding. So we are actually now the first wave of the feminine masculine Christ in form, when we actually get to embody what was seeded at that time. And when the sacred principle of the rose, or the sacred rose essence within, is not just experienced as an essence and in the memory or at the cosmic level, but when this cosmic rose starts to descend into our form and becomes the essence, and then channels through the gateway of our earth and what we call the new earth, and then it's being shared within this diamond pure crystalline consciousness, and then through immense gratitude it comes back to the surface and resurrects. And I've had a session just of the late, just during this timeline. It was all simultaneous, and this is how I experience. I channel things within the direct experience. I don't prophesize, I don't talk about things I just know about. It's in the direct alignment with what we go through, and that is why my messages are always resonating with people who are having a simultaneous experience in a various ways of form, of course, but they're somehow experiencing an aspect of that within their own embodiment and integration process. So I'm going to explain how this went for me, so you can have an easier, more physical approach to that, because there's a lot of beautiful channels of light, but they're bringing more messages of the light, how the light quotient is shared, or beautiful light activations. But I like to focus on the integration, because I'm the wave that is experiencing itself as those who embody, those of us who descend light into form, to formulate the new consciousness. So I want to talk to you about this sacred essence of the rose, because in the video, in my equinox topic, I've touched base on it, but it wasn't really, expressed from the depth of the real experience, because it was just open, it was just initiated. And I know we've talked about that before, and the sacred rose was not just a concept, it was an archetype of the feminine Christ, which is the embodiment of the Christ, not just the Christ as the solar logos consciousness or the solar light body consciousness, but it was actually that light quotient you achieve, and it's enough of light quotient that gets that immense light of the cosmic Christ to precipitate and to become materialized in matter. So this is the aspect known as the feminine Christ. I've shared with you when I was reading the book, the Christos, right, from Barbara Hand-Clow. In that book, when I was reading it, I was actually preparing for this chapter in my life, for this full cosmic union in full proportion, actually. So I was preparing through the gateway that book shared a lot on that subject. And in that book, I've read you, I think, in one of the eclipse messages, an aspect that talks about the hidden aspect of the Christ, which was coming through Magdalene at that point in time. And she had to stay behind the scenes because at that point it was too dangerous. It wasn't yet, the light quotient of the collective wasn't allowing that to be a safe experience for the feminine Christ to speak up, to rise in its full extent, to share itself. So it stayed dormant, not in terms of embodiment, but stayed behind the scenes in terms of the overall sharing. And in the recent meditation and activation I did about the sacred space and the importance of the sacred space, which will also be a message in the April's Energy Gateway update, it's actually shared about how this all coincides. Our sacred gateways through our, it's almost like this natural protection we're holding through our sacred space, and how important it is to now reflect to every aspect of life through the seated Christed consciousness, which means we're no longer projecting and relating persona to persona. We're coming in all aspects as the reflection of pure source to source, even if they're people, or we call them beings, individuals, who might not relate as intimately with our soul as our inner union of the beloved, and then our first primary circle of divine companions who are within our it's almost like a resonant group. Okay, so this was a channeling. I created a beautiful light activation. You can get it on my page. The link is also shared down below, about the resurrection of the sacred rose. There's a whole guidance, over half an hour of this process, which guides you through embracing this principle and bringing the essence of the cosmic rose through all your main body vortices, and then uprising it back through the channels. Because when I had that session with the divine companion, the first thing she actually said to me was, she had an experience of over 25,000-year-old cycles, right, of incarnations, of being a giver, and how now it's time to receive. But what I was actually shown is that in many ways, in many cases, what is now coming, because the sacred rose is the aspect of, again, of the feminine Christ and the expression through our bodies and our nurturing spiritual nourishment. And at that point, the person says to me, well, I've never actually been spiritually nourished, and I understand many beings within the light had that experience. But there is a bigger process here that we're all taking part of. We're all a part of. This is not me doing this work or you doing this work. There's an aspect that we have as individual missions, and then there's an aspect we can only do and co-create together. This is something I want to talk about today, because it is truly vitally important, because that first sacred space is the point of origin. When you are in your own twin soul essence, it is just your cosmic spark in creation, and that first primary is that resonant group. And in the physical now, we're meeting aspects of that group consciousness through people. And in my own life, for the first time in my reality, there's people coming of that angelic group, and just connecting together. So it's interesting, because what that does is that that love we hold for the self is then reflected through direct source program of reflection, of mirroring, in that divine crystallized purity. So it's not someone projecting what they want to see or receive from you, but seeing you in the clarity of the light that you truly are, and then reflected back to them. And what I have experienced with these people, it's almost like an instant recognition, and it's like an interlocking of energy. So it's not like you see someone and you like them, and you say, oh, I like you, I like what you do, and a part of that you project onto them, which you perceive about your reality, what you don't yet perceive about your reality. But within these connections, it's pure source to source, one source aspect viewing another source aspect and realizing they're one. And this happens within this second primary of the sacred space we experience in this embrace of our sacred group. And recently one such companion came to me and said, I just love you. And I said, wow, it's beautiful. And we started talking a little bit. And when we shared, she was actually explaining to me how she's feeling that energy rising in her body, and the things it's doing with her back, and how the energy is spiraling. And it's really, when it's a source infused, source to source connection, it creates an alchemical fusion within our bodies. It's not just mental. When you like someone and you like what they do and you have an idea about them, it doesn't create any energetic response in your body. But when this is an embodiment kind of love that crystallizes in form, it's going to be a completely different fusion of light. And that person said to me, you know what, I really feel now the angelic group of the sacred rose is coming together. And so many of us have been alone for so long. Of course, we needed to anchor our own primary, which was the first template, was anchor your primary, the beloved essence of who you are. Now we're really moving into this this second primary, which is that resonant group, because this is the level where we're co-creating together by sharing within our genuine authenticity, by allowing ourselves to be just who we truly are, and in the feminine Christ that women now are holding at this level, and then fusing and attracting that male Christ, because that is the principle of Isis and Osiris, which basically is that key towards understanding the Christ union, which is the activated inner, which is the sacred rose, then creates this alchemical fusion and magnetizes and assists the masculine Christ to come to her, or to replenish within that light. So the first part is the inner replenishment, which is created through the activation and integration of our own sacred rose. And when I looked at my equinox video, what happened, which was just yesterday, was much after I actually put it out, you know, the video, I see underneath a video from Anrita Melchizedek. I didn't watch it, but I saw a title, and it was exactly the equinox video she made, and I didn't even know. I don't watch other people, especially of the late, because I'm busy channeling and doing my work and assisting others. And then I see this, it was such a beautiful confirmation that this is truly the process. It was the first confirmation, and then just kept on going. And what occurred is I saw the title, The Sacred Rose, and you know, the chalice, the codes of the Holy Grail. And this was exactly the messages that I've been receiving, because that isolation, of course it served a purpose, but it was like the first gateway of understanding the self completely, and then coming into this full realization with the resonant group, so that there can be this constant interchange of love. And what I've got as a direct channel, once I saw this mirrored in my reality, I had this huge aha, and I finally understood completely on all levels that look, yellow butterfly, I'm not sure you can see it. Sorry. Oh my God, a blessing of resurrection. When I see these yellow butterflies, for me, it's always a resurrection message. Anyway, guys, what was I saying? Microphone. Yes, so the message was that when there was a parting, and I've shared with you in the equinox video, there was a parting with me and that individual, which was for me the first other Christed feminine, other feminine Christ, and I wasn't fully trusting that because I had so much of different experiences of integrating those polarities, and people who were not of that similar resonant group, people who were not yet fully authentic in the way we sing our soul song in this crystalline clarity and the true essence of our soul. And then yesterday I finally got it. What that separation temporarily occurred was because the sacred rose needed to be embraced fully and integrated from within, because only then can you see the other clearly. So the first primary is that vortex, and the second primary, which is the resonant group, and it depends, again, there's many different groups here, and the group that I belong to, like I've said to you before, is the Illumined Angelics or the Royal Angelics, or it doesn't matter, it's just names. It's more a frequency. It's more a frequency of what we came here to participate with in our own part of the overall human experience and experiment. Because let me give you one example in the session when the person said to me, well, this was 25,000 years of cycles of just giving. And I said, look, it's not as individualized as we would like to think it. We say, okay, my soul went through these 25,000 years on earth and I was constantly in this mode. But imagine it's more like there is an oversoul, a fusion of group. And let's say at a certain aspect of the planting of the seeds for a certain cycle, one aspect comes. And then another aspect comes, we'll have to activate those seeds. And a third aspect comes, and, you know, it's like in a cyclical time formation that time truly is. And then we'll say, okay, now it's time for us to integrate that, you know, and then it's time to embody, and then it's time to share that, and it's time to activate a new, and then give new life. So it's all these consequent phases that we're truly a part of. But the moment we release our individual grip of, wow, our mission, it's been heavy, it's been difficult, wow, so much dualistic polarity playing out, wow, these cycles, because imagine, at the hardest, most pinnacle point, it gets the most intense. But I will tell you, there is the most beautiful gift of when that kind of pops and it dissolves. When you dissolve through that synthesis, a whole new chapter begins. And this is this year's resurrection and how I've personally experienced it, because I could not seriously believe that after over a month of that, which I've shared with you through my videos about that darkness trying to penetrate our space and trying to show me in a false light and spreading falsehood about me and other people as well. They're just trying to infiltrate themselves, and it's all around the spiritual communities in the New Age movement. Everything's been infiltrated from A to Z, unless, I mean, except those individuals who are fully sovereign now. We can't be infiltrated, but they try really badly. But I couldn't believe that once that was broken through, once that code, I like to talk about cracking of the codes, once it was deciphered, and I felt nothing but gratitude for that experience, it dissolved completely. And after that, there was this portal of love opening. The sisterhood came together. I couldn't believe it was all happening in such fast time. I had a difficulty even breathing, because simultaneously, as I was going through the experience, as you know, as the one who shares, as a pioneer, I'm putting everything out there simultaneously, so it's been kind of intense. So again, let me go back to explaining that certain aspects of our mission we cannot do alone, which means there's aspects we're doing alone in our uniqueness, in our individualized essence, and this is where we will always be unique. You will never find someone just like you. The second aspect is when we start to kind of come in our fusion together, and like the beautiful being who came into my space just recently, she said to me, we have to connect now in our authentic expression and allowing ourselves to just be, really be who we are. And let me tell you this, until I myself fully allowed to be all of me, which included not just, you know, this spiritual part of me that wants to talk about these hard concepts and bringing this truth about ascension and liberation of the white flame, because that's basically my specialty and specialization, or how to call it, but also to be human and goofy and playful, which I always was. But let me tell you, a huge part of me did not always embrace that experience, and a lot of these people are reporting to me the very same thing. But let me tell you that why this is such a crucial component, that all these aspects are embraced to the very last aspect of what we would call our animalistic human self. whatever you call it, the most primal human self, the body, the tribal self, the shamanic self, I don't know, whatever people call it, doesn't matter. But that primordial human self, until all those aspects that are truly embedded and that light can truly go deep into the soil of that richness of what makes us human, we can't fully attract these resonant connections. Because let me tell you, in my own experience, after I went on Instagram, I didn't just share posts and readings and things like what I like to do, but nature, all that inspires me, all that is me. I started doing these stories and allowed myself to be playful and goofy. And all of a sudden people started saying, I didn't know you're so funny. I'm like, why shouldn't I be funny? Just because I talk about Ascension, because I have this knowledge, because I have this immense, profound galactic understanding. That's exactly what makes me funny, because once you have the knowledge, you can let it go and not think of it as knowledge, but be in it instead of having it. You don't have the knowledge. You are the essence of that. You can let go and you can relax and you can be humorous, and that's been happening lately a lot. So unleashing that aspect of us really made us who we truly are. And I will tell you, I did not attract into my space these beautiful, pure beings until I allowed myself to release the part of me that was still in hiding, that said, people will not take me seriously if I show this aspect of me. I'm just a goofy, playful child. And the moment I started doing that, you won't believe, people started coming and they said, I can't believe I love you, your essence, you're so goofy, you inspire me to do this and do crazy things and move out in the world and be more spontaneous. It's like, wow, you don't even know what influence you have once you truly unleash that dragon, the inner unicorn, I'll say. Yeah, the inner unicorn, because the unicorns have been coming really strongly this week and I haven't connected with them for quite a while, the essence. And it's just there. It's just this beauty, this sparkle of what truly is human, because the spiritual communities have been fragmenting and it's like compartmentalizing everything and being like this, you know, this is what you're supposed to do to be in the essence. No. I'm sorry, but really, truly not. It is the unleashing of everything you thought you were and becoming the embracing of everything you truly are. So in my experience, when that part was unleashed, a whole new world started to come into form. So this is where I start to tell you about the aspect that felt it is the giver, because that was the blockage point for me in terms of temporary separation in that relationship, in that union. Starting to embrace the other aspects of the feminine Christ in my life, in this reality we're co-creating now, is because in that time I still, not the whole of me, because I was simply just sharing, I was in my vortex, but there was a tiny aspect that still perceived the story like I am always the giver. No one will give as much as I give. No one will love the way I do. That part was still kind of coming up. And that part sabotaged the whole experience. It didn't integrate itself completely because, like I said, as volunteer souls, we come and we take on these imprints so we can show them through the whole and show, look, it's not difficult to crack those codes. It can be actually very easy, playful, and fun. And once you do, life will become an adventure. And I see a lot of people have been craving more adventure in life, more spontaneous flow. But let me tell you, we first had to do the first primary integration and the essence of the sacred rose within. And yes, when that is reached within ourselves, you will see it starts to unlock levels of love we haven't even experienced on earth before. And the message I received yesterday, after I finally got it, which aspect still needed to integrate itself completely before I could see with crystallized vision what that union is truly about, and what this sisterhood is when it's truly genuine, to trust my discernment, because that aspect that said, no, I'm still the giver, that not fully trusted. And once that was integrated from within, and all people who are a part of that need to do that, the synthesis is not over in terms of our connecting with each other, that aspect of our mission, which is all of us co-creating. Then all of us need to do that in order to be a part of our sacred spaces, because we've done this sovereign inner integration work. That's how it works, because it works through this synchronous, harmonious process of that alignment and interlocking. So that was really beautiful once I got it. And I shared with my primary sister, she's like in my first group circle, which I really, really embraced finally, and allow that love of the other to become a part of the experience, because it is the love of the self, the love of the other onto you, and then birthing a union of love into the whole, that universal love of all. Because a lot of us felt, well, you know, a lot of people say, I have universal love, I love everyone. Okay. Then something happens and they're triggered. They're not showing that love because they haven't yet really integrated that first primary, second primary, and then the whole of the world. I just recommend you do the light activation. It is so beautiful. It is amazing how things align once you yourself are aligned. So when I got this channel, when I shared with my sister, I just simply, I understood everything. And the channel was very simple. And it was, you are no longer giving or receiving, you are now simply being, and being a divine lover of life, which is what I've talked about, I think, a few years ago, the mission of divine lovers, remember? It's beyond being teachers or, these are just aspects of us. But to be a divine lover is already everything. When you teach, you love. When you share something, you love. When you laugh, you laugh. Everything is a component of that Christed love. So I want to now move into explaining how the whole of the universe, or whatever you call it, the whole of creation, the whole of life, starts to affirm everything once you get it. Once everything starts to make sense, it's like, you know, and the funny thing was, before this unraveled, before I had that session and I channeled that guidance, I was somehow really strongly pulled to post a picture of a rose that I actually bought for my mother for Mother's Day, because we celebrated here in March 25th in our country, in Slovenia. And the funny thing is, the next day I'm looking at the rose, she's calling me out, and I needed to go out to do some videos, but somehow I'm like, I want to take a picture of this rose, and I don't know why. And I put it on Instagram and I write something, you know, like about motherhood and matriarchy and embracing that nurturing spiritual nourishment. And I come back and I have the session, and my companion, she says, well, I had a vision of myself and the pink and then rose moving up. And then afterwards I got these words, the resurrection of the sacred rose, because it's finally time to liberate that flame. And then I saw the Enrita's video with the same topic. There was an equinox. It made final sense that what I was talking about, it was truly happening. It is happening. It is integrating. And it all made sense. Why the separation, why we needed to integrate that within first, how we're now coming together. And the moment you realize, and others come and they're just like, what's happening? It's just like a flower of life, right? From the inner, it blossoms out. And on earth, we're getting to experience this as co-creating in this divine partnership. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is how this relates to divine union, and how the feminine, and the masculine Christ are actually cooperating together in this process. Let me just change myself a little bit here. So I've explained to you before that the feminine Christ was always hidden. Even in the scriptures, it was covered up. It was said, doesn't even exist. It was all Jesus, the Christ. Masculine, male. We can only have male teachers, male gurus. Everything was about male, male, male. Where's the union? Creation knows both feminine and masculine principles of life. So where's the union in that? And when you're an Illumined one, you start to laugh because it's that obvious. I mean, it's not like something that's really difficult to understand once you see how simple life truly is, and the basic few principles through which everything is organized with and all functions through. Okay, so the feminine Christ is actually that first, like I said, this inner rose, the essence of that feminine Christ that awakens, and then it magnetizes the essence of the masculine Christ. And this was the same in the example of Mary Magdalene and Jesus, or Joshua. But that was somehow hidden, so that we would have this whole wrong idea about what Christ means. And then in the New Age, people started to talk about, well, Christ consciousness en masse. Okay, one aspect, that's beautiful, but what does it truly mean in terms of integration? How do we, how do we integrate that? What does it mean for us in the physical bodies? And this is something that I've channeled in this activation. So how this feminine, masculine Christ as one, joined in full union, are now ready to give life in form in that way. So I've channeled, if you remember, maybe 2 years back or something, I've talked about the stages of union, and I said first the inner union, then there's the sisterhood, and then there's the beloved. And these counterparts who are supposed to have a Christed sacred spirit union, not just partnership, but Christed partnership, this Christed union is coming about. And I talked about these stages, and this was 2 years ago, and now it's really happening. The inner, the sisterhood of the rose, and then it's like a strong magnetizing pull into the vortex, because the magnetic and electric principles co-create. And this is how then the ice is the fragmentation, right, of the Osiris, you can see it at the greater archetypal level as well, because it also represents the fragmentation of our human consciousness and how it was manipulated and distorted through so many of the false principles, when in truth, you know, so many teachings. Sorry, I think I have ants in my shoes. This is where the goofy comes in through YouTube as well. You know, lately it was just on Instagram, for those of you who are lucky ones, or not so lucky, but I really think, well, lucky ants are not in the pants yet, but in the shoes. Spring is in full bloom, which means all the creatures of nature, not just butterflies, but also ants and bugs and worms, and love them all. So anyway, guys, what I was saying is, and I hope I don't ruin my microphone here, is that now these unions are in the preparational stage, but it's happening in an accelerated, elegant as well. Yes, it's elegantly, simply happening. And a lot of people were asking themselves, why does this take so long? Why is this like this? Why am I so long? Why am I not having this? Is once you really get it, why this process of fulfilling the right quantum of light to be able to embody the Christ, not just hold it in our light bodies, but to become the feminine expression of the Christ, which holds that in form. It's the womb of life, it's the womb of creation, and then bringing the fusion with the alchemical merging process, the masculine and the feminine principles of life coming through us, those of us who are the first fully grown, germinated, sprouted seeds of the Christ. And this is what will be the next step, these unions. And maybe I'm going to talk more about this very soon, but this is the process. For those of you who resonate with this current wave of integration, you will somehow be experiencing similarities, and you will be feeling that strong aha impulse of why it was this way, why all the solitude and all the, you know, even people who have lots of people around them sometimes feel solitude in terms of being a little different, in terms of what they come here to, you know, somehow integrate and what they're a part of. You might have no one around you or lots of people, but still the feeling will be there. It's because the inner primary for everyone on this path of true devotion to the light of truth, the light of real resurrection, and what true discernment really means in our highest light of sovereignty. So these understandings cannot be infiltrated. So once I fully got this, I have to tell you, it was all about the rose. And then my sister tells me, that's why I've been guided to paint the rose so much. It's been happening for 6 months, but all of a sudden I needed to make it physical. So you see, everyone is getting a message in a certain way. Someone sees it as in meditation. Someone needs to paint it. I've had it as color pink. A lot of other people reported about the color pink. I know there's a lot of people who still compartmentalize this and divide the spiritual essence of things with the physical, but it's not in any way separate. That's why I've told you before, I'm noticing a lot of this phenomena. In truth, it's kind of a phenomena in fashion. You know, what's coming up, all these pastel colors and pink and roses and really, and we don't have many stores here, maybe 2 or 3. It depends, you know, it can go across the border, and I don't do that much, but it doesn't take much for you to notice once you see how we are creating this experience. And I've talked about in the beginning of the year, this will be the feminine principle embodiment year. And then the truth Christed masculine and the fusion will just naturally occur, because we are in the 11 year again, which is a gateway. It is 11, you know, 1111, the code of this twin inner union. And of course, also it is a strong amplification point of the light. So this Easter, this resurrection, for me, it feels like, I won't even call it the blue moon. I just want to call it the pink moon. It is the Libra moon. Again, it's partnership. It's coming together. Where is your Libra? You know, your point. For me, I have Libra, 8 degrees in my MC, which is the point of career, which is your work, your life's mission. And it is that partnership, working together with the one for you, the right resonant match. You are working together as, in my case, what I feel is that activists, people really there to help other people, and everyone will do that in different way and form. So let me not, I cannot emphasize this enough, how important this is, how these last over 2 weeks, let's say we'll come up to 3 weeks soon, have been immensely encoded with nothing but activation after activation and rapid acceleration. And I feel this after the Easter point we will truly feel what the 11 vibration of the entire year actually means, how it will be all speeded up. So if you have things to do, requirements to do, complete, finish, whatever, do them now during this gateway, because I feel the rest of the year will be even more amplified. It's just gonna get more and more magical, more adventurous, lots of pink, lots of that beautiful energy of blossoming and coming together. So I don't know what to say more. I think I've said enough. Just remember that, again, the sacred rose is an essence that lives within everyone, but in most cases it's still dormant, and it lives as a memory, or when people read the spiritual teachings or scriptures, something resonates, but it's not the same as you're actually experiencing this in your own life. So the group of, for example, in my reality, the group of illumined ones, we kind of bring that, we plant that for the immersion of that light to be able to be spread across many. So that third group, which is the most widely spread sacred space, which is all life, everyone, everything, even that which does not intimately know your soul, but is still through source connected. So in that third primary, once we have that establishment of the inner sacred space, we can travel anywhere, we can be with anything, but always through the principle of source mirroring. No projection, no false or faulty relating, no drama, no stories. It's a complete dissolution of that. All the veils, the 7 veils of initiation, completely transparent. 7 keys. You know, when I had my one of my first actually psychic healing sessions, the woman healer, she actually said to me when she tuned into my own beloved embodiment path, she said, I feel you are like Osiris and Isis. You really represent that. You are that complete love, that true love, that fullest devotion. And I see that on the higher level for all the Christed unions, which is, there is no other, because it has to be in service to the whole. Your life's work is not meaningful if it somehow doesn't serve the whole, if it doesn't serve others, if it doesn't serve life. Not in an attached way, but just naturally by you being you. So at this point, again, I will repeat the spirit message that was channeled. We're no longer givers, or we're just receiving, and balance is not perceived in the way like black and white. Now I'm resting, then I'm working, or I'm meditating and then I'm dancing or hyper creating. It's more like a fusion. And I've shared this on my Instagram because recently I had a little experience what the fusion means, and how much more joy can it actually bring up to the surface and elevate. Because I had one of my first bath karaoke. I gotta tell you, this experience, it was amazing. I never liked baths. They always felt like something I need to do, okay, to rest, to replenish. I put some meditation music, and I just couldn't wait until it's over. Water was too hot, or wasn't good, I wasn't comfortable. But this time, I started exchanging with my sister, you know, my mirror, my beautiful mirror. And I started singing to her, and then I started singing to myself, and I put on my nostalgic old music list. You know, I got to tell you that as well. Moon River started singing just recently, constantly playing in my head. Then La Vie en Rose, exactly that same day. And I went to seek the original version. So beautiful. Just listen to that song. It is so beautiful and so vital for this understanding. And when I was just singing there, I forgot about time. It was 1 hour and a half. I'm like, oh my gosh, where did time go? What happened? And usually baths made me feel so kind of like exhausted, you know, energetically, hot water, and a little tired. I felt I still continued to dance and to sing, and I was so hypercharged. And this is when Spirit told me, this is what the fusion means. You're not going into, okay, now I'm receiving, okay, now I'm working, now I'm receiving again, or now I'm resting, now I'm creating. It's more like a creative rest, or a playful rest, and restful work, or nurturing work. It's enmeshed. And this is what this fusion means, the feminine, masculine Christ, the full polarities, and this, how much more joy can be sparked when this fusion comes about. Because the perception we have of balance is not, you know, in most cases is not yet fully complete. Because once you understand balance at the level of yin and yang, then you know that the one always lives within the other. And it's not with the other, it is within the other. So I hope you will have a beautiful Easter, a beloved gateway. As always, I'm greeting you within the awareness space of the sacred flame of the rose, so that its cosmic rose essence comes, activates our hearts, move deep into the earth, resurrect back up, and feed and nurture all life. So get the activation. The link is down below. It is beautiful. And again, the funny fact to tell you, we can't control these things, because I tried once and it didn't work. I recorded this activation when we did it in a session, and then I put stop once it was complete. Guess how long it was? 33 minutes, 33 seconds. You know, that was the first recording, you know, before I edited. But still, I was, wow. You can't make these things up. It's just so beautiful. And once you become a part of this beautiful wave within the spiral, you will see. You will see with the eyes that see and understand without the need to. You don't go to nature and say, please give me guidance. You are the essence of guidance. Let it come to you as you are. Be as you are, be who you are, and just let the rest magically unfold and enjoy. Thank you for watching, as always, with so much love, wisdom, and power. I love you all so very much. Thank you, those of you who've been sending me beautiful messages and coming to greet me in my space. I love you all so much. This has been just quite a journey. That's all I will say, because that's the phrase I'm repeating for a few weeks now. It's like, what a journey. For the first time, it's really felt like this beautiful collective journey. Enjoy, 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 enjoy. Joy is the highest vibration, and I'll talk to you again soon. If you want to assist this collective process, you know, all the information is on my page. You can get the courses, you can contribute whatever way you feel called, and I'll see you soon. Bye.